We'll do this together.
They're trying to put Clark and Miles in jail for a year. And what's the charge? Something like obstructing government administration or something?
Looks good on the CV.
Well, what is this government administration that they're charged with disrupting? Well, a big part of it is Rikers Island. It is a torture chamber and a debtor's prison. That's what it comes down to. Torture chamber because of the brutality that is regularly enforced on people who are in prison there. People are brutally beaten by the guards. The guards set up prisoners to beat other prisoners, all as part of their control mechanism there. And this is well documented. They've got a lot of it on video. There's all kinds of reports on it. And they almost never punish any of the guards for what they do to these prisoners. But it is also a debtor's prison. Why do I say it's a debtor's prison? Because most of the people, and on any given night there can be as many as 14,000 people in jail in Rikers Island. Most of them are there because they can't pay their bail. That's the only reason they're in there. Also, you got to deal with the fact that the overwhelming majority of people there are either black or brown. So this is what we're talking about. And see, when I say torture, I'm not trying to hype this up. Khalif Browder, he did 3 years at Rikers Island. 2 of them in solitary confinement. The international definition of torture around solitary confinement is more than 2 weeks. But they routinely put people in solitary confinement for months and even years at Rikers Island. That is torture. On top of the brutal beatings that they dish out, on top of the murderous deeds that they do, because they have murdered people behind Rikers. Khalif Browder had actually done nothing wrong and was charged with a minor crime, which he hadn't done, stealing a backpack. They tried to get him to cop a plea to it, but he was like, I didn't do it. So their approach to that, and this is routinely done, this is no outrageous case. They kept him in jail, brutally beat him, threw him in solitary, trying to pressure him to cop a plea. And see, when they tell us that our young people are thugs and criminals, let's actually understand the process through which this happens in terms of putting people, the conditions that this system creates, in terms of arresting people, pressuring them to cop pleas. Khalif refused to do it. He ended up doing 3 years before they dropped the case on him.
He was a child.
He went in at 16, came out at 19, but he was never able to recover, and he ended up taking his own life shortly after he got out. But it was this system that killed him, through the mechanisms of Rikers. See now, this is the administration that they want to charge these brothers with obstructing and throw them in Rikers Island for doing it. Let's think about what's the message behind that. Well, let's also think about the fact that this is a system. I just came back from Baltimore. I was down there doing work around the Freddie Gray case, the case of the cop who gave Freddie Gray the rough ride. Mobilizing people to stand up and respond to that. Now here you got a system that looks at the Freddie Gray case, a case of a young man doing nothing wrong, who encounters some cops and decides to get the hell out of there and runs. They catch him, they beat him down, they put their knees into the back of his neck and then throw him screaming in pain, bent up like a pretzel, into a police van. The police station they were taking him to was 2 minutes away. It took them 45 minutes to get him there. They drove him around the city, and look, the judge says there was not enough evidence for this. They gave him the rough ride. That's what cops in Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore. I grew up 6 blocks away from where Freddie Gray lived. One thing I'll tell you is, the deal is when you see the cops in Baltimore and you're black and young, run. That's how you deal with that, because whatever happens from that is probably better than what would have happened if you stood there and took it. That was the rules. That's how you dealt with it then and now. But this system can find no criminal activity of these 6 cops who collaborated in terms of brutally beating, shackling arms and legs, throwing him into the back of the van, laying face down, and then driving him around the city for 45 minutes, and he comes out with his spine 80% severed. But there's no criminal activity involved in this.
You know why?
Freddie Gray, they even say, if they said in court, Freddie Gray took his own life. Bullshit. This system and its cops murdered him, but they find no criminal activity in that, but they want to put these freedom fighters in jail for a year. These freedom fighters should do no time. The charges have to be dropped. And that's very important. But what do you say about a system that does this kind of thing? What do you say about it? I say that it is no damn good, it is utterly illegitimate, and it needs to be gotten rid of as soon as possible. And look, we in the Revolutionary Communist Party, we are organizing for an actual revolution at the soonest time to get rid of this system, to overthrow it and bring a whole different system in its place. We got the leadership for this in Bob Avakian, a man who's addressed all of the questions and obstacles that stand between humanity and its ultimate emancipation. We've got the strategic approach needed to do it. And anybody who wants to see these horrors ended like we do, get with this revolution that the Revolutionary Communist Party is organizing. And look, a crucial part of organizing for an actual revolution is mobilizing people to resist the horrors that this system brings down. And these horrors, I've talked about incarceration in Rikers and police terror, but there are many more horrors coming down on people all around the world from this system. Wars for empire, the degradation and subjugation that women in this country and around the world suffer, the attacks on our immigrant sisters and brothers, the wreckage of the whole environment of this planet. All of that are horrors this system is bringing down. A crucial part of organizing for revolution, an actual revolution, to end that, mobilizing people to stand up against these horrors. We have to fight when they murder our young people and then exonerate the killer cops. We have to fight when they try to grab our freedom fighters and throw them in jail for fighting for freedom. We got to do this because that's the way in which people develop their strength and organization. And also, it helps to open up for their understanding to develop, to make leaps forward. Because when people stand up, they can see far. They can see better what's the source of the problems they're up against and what's it going to take to solve them. So these are reasons why we got to fight this. And look, it matters if we fight. And look, it was I don't want to get too much into Baltimore, but I keep going back to it because it was really frustrating that the people in Baltimore who stood up last year and forced the authorities to back up and charge these cops are now being told by the authorities there's nothing they can do about them exonerating these killer cops. And frankly, not that many people felt there was anything they could do. That's really frustrating. We have to actually build a fight. We can't sit back and accept these horrors, because you do that and they'll beat us down so far that we're broken. We can't accept that, but then also standing up, resisting and fighting back is part of organizing for an actual revolution.
Okay, so Carl and I came up together because we worked on Rise Up together, we're working in the movement for revolution together. I just want to add a couple things. We're in the middle of the circus of getting ready for the American elections. We're being told this is how you make your change. You pick between a fascist, white supremacist, immigrant bashing, woman hating bigot named Trump, or you pick the war criminal with a proven track record of helping grease mass incarceration, Hillary Clinton. Okay? These are not our choices. I want to say two things about this. One, progress in this country, advances for the oppressed have never come without people putting their bodies on the line, stepping outside the official channels and the choices and the dead ends that they give us and try to confine us to. What Miles and Clark did, what we were part of, but what they are being threatened to pay a heavy price for doing, putting your body on the line when you see injustice, outrageous and concentrated. I wish Rikers was an anomaly, an abomination. It's not. It concentrates a whole grinding genocide of black and brown people in this country. And it has been documented. My brother over here has the shirt, the new Jim Crow. It's been documented what's been happening. Study after study has come out. It's time for people to put themselves on the line to stop this. And that's what people did. And that's how people have woken up and gotten a sense of their strength and seen and shine a light on the crimes that are being committed. And it's very heroic what they did. And I want to say, the system is trying to send a message by threatening them with major time. And to tell everybody, don't stand up, you'll pay a heavy price. We have to send the opposite message. If you stand up against this, we will have your back, and other people need to join them. We need to pack the courthouse for them. And we need to bring everybody we know to stand behind them and make sure they do not do a day in jail. Make sure the charges are dropped, and use this case. It is not a distraction. Use this case to wake up people across this city and across this country to the injustices that are going on every day behind closed doors, behind prison doors, behind bars and cages. Use what's being done, what they knew and what they stood up around, spread that and rally more people to see it, and how illegitimate it is that these courts can find cause to charge them, but not the cops who kill our people day after day. It's an illegitimate system, so I want to say it's very important we spread the word, and it is part of. And part of why we're in this is because it's part of building up the strength and getting organized for an actual revolution. So I want to call on you for one other thing. This is a proclamation that was put out from the Revolutionary Communist Party. It says the Revolutionary Communist Party is organizing now to overthrow this system at the soonest possible time. And I want to call on you to get into this revolution, because we are not trying to fight the good fight. We are trying to fight this to end it so that never again does a generation have to witness their fathers sent off to prison, or their sons shot in the street by murdering police, their daughters raped and battered in their homes, their immigrant families torn apart by mass deportations and all of this, and people around the world droned and bombed by U.S. imperialism and the environment destroyed. We need an actual revolution. We have the leadership in Baba Bacon. Get serious about this, get into this, join with us, study this science, and get organized for an actual revolution. Be in the courtroom, have their backs, and then get serious about taking this all the way so that we don't have to be fighting these fights in a generation and a generation. So, get your hands on this, and now I have the great privilege, we have the great privilege, when my friend here, Ebony Hillbilly, was singing. He was a friend of mine. I was thinking, which is beautiful, I was thinking, Miles Solay and Clark Kissinger are friends of mine. I am so proud. I want you guys to come up. We want to hear from them. We want to salute them. They've been introduced, but before we do, I want to say a word about them. These two men, I love them dearly. I've known them for many, many years. They have been on the front lines. Clark since before I was born. But when I first got involved in becoming a revolutionary and standing up and becoming a freedom fighter, Clark was there on the front lines in the 90s fighting against the execution of Mumia Abu Jamal. I learned a tremendous amount from him. He's never given up. He's a rebel without a pause. Miles Solay was the youngest guy in that fight. I met him when he was a barely teenager. We have been dear friends ever since, and he also not only has never given up on fighting for emancipation, not just for us here in this country, but for people all over the world, but he went on to become an inspiring and beautiful poet and musician, and I love them both dearly. I am proud to say they are my friends and comrades, and I am going to be with them in court, and I am calling on all of you to join us and bring everybody you know to be there in court with them, because they will learn something by being there, they will change by being there, and they will be part of spreading this to go further. We have to have their backs, and we have to make defending them part of burying a system that would lock up a whole generation, carry out genocide, and commit terror around the world. We can do so much better, and these guys are a big part of fighting to make that real.